Humans have an interesting way of resolving conflict. But what may be even more interesting is how conflict begins. Most conflicts begins when one side believes it is lacking something, when one side feels it has been treated unfairly, or when one side sees the other as a threat. In many ways, this is tied to survival. Human beings want to live, protect, preserve, and sometimes possess. But conflict does not always begin loudly. Sometimes it begins quietly, with comparison. A person looks at what someone else has and begins measuring it against what they do not have. A nation remembers an old wound and begins calling it unfinished business. A group feels overlooked, mistreated, or pushed aside, and the desire for correction begins to grow. At first, it may not look like war. It may look like justice. It may look like protection. It may look like survival. And maybe sometimes it is. This is why the thought cannot be too simple. War is often about wants, but not every want begins from evil. Some wants are born from hunger. Some wants are born from fear. Some wants are born from grief. Some wants are born from injustice. Some wants are born from the desire to protect what would be destroyed if no one stood in the way. Still, every want must be examined. Some wars are about wanting land. Some are about wanting control. Some are about wanting revenge. Some are about wanting freedom. Some are about wanting safety. Some are about wanting to protect what is already in your hands. So when I say war is about wants, I do not mean that every want is selfish. I mean that somewhere beneath the conflict, there is usually a desire, a fear, a wound, or a demand that has grown strong enough to justify destruction. The question becomes, what do you want, and what are you willing to destroy to get it? A person may believe that once they receive what they wanted, peace will follow. But does conflict truly resolve the issue, or does it only create a false peace disguised as compliance? Sometimes what looks like peace is only a pause, a moment to regroup, a moment to recover, a moment to prepare for the next conflict. War begins when a want becomes greater than the cost of peace. When a want is not examined, it can become a command. And once it becomes a command, people may stop asking whether the want is righteous, reasonable, or even necessary. They only begin asking how to fulfill it. This is where war becomes dangerous beyond the battlefield, because before weapons are ever lifted, a story has usually been told. Someone has named the enemy. Someone has shaped the fear. Someone has explained what must be taken, protected, avenged, or destroyed. And if the story is strong enough, people may begin to believe that the peace is weakness, mercy is betrayal, and questioning the mission is dishonor. This is the psychological weight of war. A soldier may enter the battlefield under the mission that overrides individual choice. The slogan says, "This is what we want." And if that message is repeated with enough power, fear, and urgency, people may begin to carry that want as their own. Especially when the enemy is presented as a threat to freedom, liberty, safety, family, or identity. The message becomes demanding, potent, and impactful. It does not just inform people, it forms them. That want becomes your want. Then the seed begins to grow. And when fear waters it, war becomes easier to justify. Some people are drafted into wars. Some enlist. Some know exactly what they believe they are fighting for. Others are placed in conflict and may have no clear understanding of the deeper reason they are there. And there are some who may enlist because deep within them they want to fight. This is not to judge every person the same, but to acknowledge that war can gather many motives under one mission. Personally, I do not like war. I do not celebrate it, but I do understand why it happens. Sometimes humans go to war because they want what someone else has. Other times they go to war because they are trying to defend what someone else wants to take. And sometimes they go to war because they believe the pain of being treated unfairly has finally demanded an answer. But that is where caution is needed, because not every answer heals, not every correction restores, not every victory brings peace. This is why the question matters. What do you want? And after you get what you want, will you truly be satisfied? Because if the want is never examined, the war may never really end. It may only change locations. It may move from nations to neighborhoods, from battlefields to households, from public conflict to private resentment. Maybe this is why peace cannot only be the absence of war. Peace must also be the discipline of examining the want before it becomes a weapon.